Let's talk about men. They haven't had much attention in the last couple of thousand years, so let's give them some. Business owner, educator, and lifelong observer of politics and economics, making sense of complex issues. It seems that in the present time, there seems to be a big disconnect between what men believe their role is and what society expects of them. I think we can see this in different ways in different places around the world. On one side, you have a case of men being accused of not getting out of their mum's basements, getting off the gaming consoles and into the world and interacting with people. And on the other side, there are the immigrants, the men that are in droves, in large numbers, leaving their own countries to go to other countries to, realize their potential. So in all these cases, there seems to be a problem with men and women. And what that means for society is things like falling birth rate and, general male malaise, and also a rise in, let's say, in very basic terms, an increase in resentment. So what do I mean by all these things? If we take young men in Western society, let's call, I like to call the OECD, in the modern strong economies from Japan to the US. If we take men there, we can see a lot of similarities. We can see that the social contract of social mobility has really been taken away from them. They no longer feel that they are able to, do all the things. Go to school, study hard, graduate, get a good job, work hard, and have all the things that their parents and grandparents had. There's also possibly a disconnect between what are those things that they want and where do women fit in there. I've heard it said that from the women's side, and I'm not speaking for women here, but this is what I've heard said, that they feel that men haven't fully really developed to appreciate that women have their own autonomy now and they don't need to be taken care of by a man, and that they feel that men still have this general sort of notion that what they are supposed to do is do all those things and then protect a woman. I hear that, and I actually find that, at least in my context, to be very old-fashioned. And I would have to talk to young men to find out if they think this, because I'm older and I certainly haven't thought that in my adult life. So I'm trying to look at this and hear what women are saying, and these are comments in some of my videos, so that's where I'm drawing this from, and looking at myself and thinking, I was born in the late 60s, and I didn't grow up thinking that my job is going to be a successful man and protect a woman or take care of a woman. I never expected that. Once I was an adult, by the time I was an adult, by the time I was an adult, I very much understood that a woman didn't need me to provide for her, and that if any woman was to enter into a relationship with me, it was going to be because they wanted to, on their own realization that it would be better than being with someone else or on their own. Not that they needed a man to realize their economic potential or something. So I don't know how that fits in with modern men. Do they really think that? But let's move on. Let's say that they do to a degree, and that they aren't able to reconcile this fact that women don't really want that, which would actually, yes, that would cause huge problems. But for me, because I haven't thought that, I've always considered the young male problem to be a problem of not being able to realize a social mobility comparable to what their fathers or grandfathers had. And I just want to say parents. I don't even want to say fathers and grandparents, but just to make the point. And I think that that is the cause of part of their malaise, part of their being disincentivized to go out, to participate in the world. And given that there are devices that you can entertain yourself with, given that there are so many more ways that you do not need to go into the world. In Japan, famously, the Hikikomori, which is, as far as, actually I need to check this, but as far as I know, it's pretty well split between men and women, that they don't go out at all because they don't need to. And I think if you are feeling in yourself that there is no hope, that you've done all the things and you're not getting the other things like your father did and like your grandfather did, then you will retreat back into the house and then not participate. And then that obviously is going to spiral downward, because participating in society, being part of social groups, is actually developing your personality, developing who you are, and making you the person you will become. So without that, you are at a distinct disadvantage. One of the reasons, I'll talk about this in another video, as to why I don't really resent people that don't want to work. If they don't want to work, they're missing out on so much that just let them be, and hopefully they'll come around to it. So if we look at the case of immigrant men who have come from regions where there hasn't been the infrastructure available to become isolated in the home, and that their full purpose for leaving their country and going to another country is to realize their economic potential, I think there's a difference there. I think that those men could possibly still have the notions of they want to be a successful man and create a family and provide for a woman. I don't necessarily think that that means that they have attitudes that are different to the OECD males. I just think that they are motivated differently. And when they arrive in these countries and the infrastructure is not able to provide the training, employment, and language education that is required for them to fully participate in society, then that is where their malaise sets in. And without possibly a good established community there for them to get support from, this creates issues in the community. Also, if they are moving from their country to another country to realize their goals and they're not able to do that, obviously they have an increased level of resentment. So what is the solution to all this? So I think that obviously a lot of countries have done really well in this, and the failures that have come to light have been more failures of provision of employment, education, training, and language, assimilation. They haven't been able to, they could, they were, but then they were not able to deal with the numbers that they were taking in. And that is where we ended up with lots of problems in Northern Europe. So for me, it's not an immigration problem, it's an infrastructure problem. It's also a social mobility problem, in that investment from corporations doesn't go as much back into society as it used to. These are some of the changes I've talked at length about, and that just generally that investment is not there for youth as a whole, from men and women to domestic and immigrant populations. The amount of opportunities are not there as corporations shrink, as automation increases, and the amount of investment in physical workplaces reduces greatly, and never more so than after the COVID pandemic, when much more effort was put into remote work, automation, and reducing the need for people to be physically in locales to do their work. All of these things, I think, are contributing greatly to the malaise that young people, young men, young immigrant men, and I have made this video about young men, but in my mind, I really equally put young women in there as well. It's just that in at least the immigration side of it, women have less been a focus there. In another video, I have talked about how this is changing, and perhaps in the next episode of this one, I will talk about the increasing amount of women that are moving around the world. This is Langstandard. If you're still here, honestly, you have no idea how much it helps if you subscribe. I'll keep these coming.